Welcome back to Cozy English Podcast. I'm Melody, and it's such a beautiful day today.
And I'm Avery. Hello, everyone. We're so excited to be here again with you. Melody, I have to ask, did anything interesting happen to you this week?
Oh my goodness, yes. So yesterday, I was walking my dog in the park, and this little kid came running up to us.
Oh no, what happened?
Well, she started petting my dog, and then she looked up at me and said, "Your dog is so fluffy. Can I take him home?" I was trying so hard not to laugh because she was so serious about it.
I absolutely love it. There's something so satisfying about sharing a moment that made you smile or surprised you. It's like you get to relive the experience.
Exactly. And that little story I just told connects perfectly to today's topic. We're talking about telling stories in English, specifically about past experiences.
This is such an important skill for English learners because storytelling is how we really connect with people in conversations.
Right. Instead of just saying, "I went to the park," you can paint a picture, share your emotions, and make your listener feel like they were there with you.
And it helps you sound so much more natural and fluent. Plus, when you tell stories, you automatically practice past tenses, which is exactly what we want to focus on today.
Perfect. So we'll be practicing past simple for the main events in our stories,
Mm-hmm.
past continuous for background situations, and we'll even use some present perfect when it feels natural. But the most important thing is making your stories interesting and engaging.
Absolutely. So let's start by learning some really useful storytelling phrases that will make your story sound more natural and captivating.
Great idea. The first phrase I love using is, "Let me tell you about the time I." This is perfect for starting any story. For example, "Let me tell you about the time I got stuck in an elevator for 3 hours."
Ooh, that immediately grabs attention. Another fantastic opener is, "Guess what happened to me?" It creates instant curiosity. Like, "Guess what happened to me at the grocery store yesterday?"
Yes, and if you really want to build excitement, you can say, "You won't believe this," or "You're not going to believe what happened." It makes people lean in and really listen carefully.
I love that one. Now, once you've hooked your listener with a great opening, you need some phrases to guide them through your story smoothly.
Exactly. At first is perfect for setting the scene and giving background information. You might say, "At first, everything seemed completely normal."
Right, that sets up the contrast for what's coming next. Then you have then, which is probably the most common and natural way to continue your story. Then I noticed something strange was happening.
And for those dramatic, unexpected moments, we have suddenly. This adds so much excitement and tension. Suddenly, all the lights went out.
That gives me chills just hearing it. You can also use all of a sudden, which has the same effect. It signals that something unexpected is about to happen.
Perfect. And to wrap up your story nicely, you can use "in the end" or "finally." These phrases signal that you're reaching the conclusion. In the end, everything worked out better than I expected.
These transition phrases are like magic words for storytelling. They help your listener follow along easily and make your story flow much more naturally.
Absolutely. Now, there's another really important element of good storytelling, and that's expressing your emotions and reactions.
Oh, this is so important. When something surprising happens in your story, you can say, "I was so surprised," or "I couldn't believe my eyes," or "I was shocked."
Right. And for exciting moments, you might say, "I was thrilled," "I was over the moon," or "I was so excited I could barely contain myself."
For nervous or anxious feelings, you could say, "I was so nervous. My heart was beating so fast," or "I had butterflies in my stomach."
And for those embarrassing moments we all have, and trust me, we all have them, you can say, "I was so embarrassed. I wanted to disappear," or "I felt my face turn bright red."
I've definitely used that last one before. The key thing to remember is that emotions make your stories come alive. They help your listener connect with your experience on a deeper level.
Exactly. And don't forget about using past continuous to set the scene. "I was walking down the street when," or "I was having dinner with my family when suddenly."
Yes, the past continuous creates that background picture, while past simple tells us what happened. It's like painting a scene and then adding the action.
Perfect analogy. All right, Avery, I think it's time for a full story demonstration. Are you ready to hear about one of my most embarrassing moments from last month?
Oh, this sounds juicy. I'm absolutely ready. Go for it.
Okay, let me tell you about the time I went to the wrong wedding. Yes, you heard that right, the wrong wedding.
Wait, what? How does that even happen?
Well, at first, everything seemed perfectly normal. My friend Emma had invited me to her cousin's wedding at this beautiful hotel downtown. I had written the date in my calendar.
Mm-hmm.
I had bought a nice dress. I even bought a wedding gift. I was feeling really prepared and excited because I hadn't been to a wedding in years.
That sounds like you were being very organized.
Exactly. So last Saturday, I got all dressed up, I did my hair, I put on my nicest jewelry, I was feeling confident and looking forward to celebrating with Emma and meeting her family.
Sounds perfect so far.
I arrived at the hotel right on time, I walked into the main ballroom, and I started looking around for Emma. The decorations were beautiful. There were white roses everywhere, elegant table settings.
Sounds lovely.
But then I realized I didn't recognize anyone, not a single person. I was standing there holding my gift, looking around confused, when this elderly woman approached me.
Oh no, what did she say?
She smiled and asked, "Are you here for Michael and Sarah's wedding?" And I thought, Michael and Sarah? Who are Michael and Sarah? But I was so confused that I just nodded and said yes.
Oh my goodness, you were at a completely different wedding.
Exactly, but I didn't realize it yet. The woman was so sweet, she introduced me to other guests, and everyone was being so friendly. I was thinking, wow, Emma's family is really nice.
This is getting better and better, so when did you figure out what was happening?
Well, I was chatting with this nice couple about how beautiful the ceremony was going to be when suddenly my phone buzzed. It was a text from Emma asking, "Where are you? The wedding is about to start."
Oh no.
I was so confused. I texted back, "I'm here at the hotel. Where are you?" Then she replied with the address, and I realized I was at the completely wrong hotel. There were two weddings happening at two different hotels on the same day.
You're kidding me. What did you feel in that moment?
I was mortified. My face turned bright red and I wanted to disappear into the floor. Here I was at someone else's wedding having conversations with total strangers about how excited I was for the happy couple who I had never even met.
That's absolutely hilarious. So what did you do? Did you just quietly sneak out?
Well, that was my plan, but then the sweet elderly woman came back over and asked if I needed help finding my seat for the ceremony. I was panicking inside, but I managed to explain that I had made a mistake and was at the wrong wedding.
How did she react?
She started laughing. She thought it was the funniest thing she'd heard all day. Then she told everyone around us what had happened, and suddenly I was surrounded by people who were all laughing and sharing stories about their own embarrassing mistakes.
That's so sweet. People can be so understanding sometimes.
They really were. One man told me that he once went to the wrong funeral and didn't realize it until he was halfway through giving a speech about someone he had never met.
Oh my gosh, that's even worse than your situation.
Right? It made me feel so much better. Then this lovely couple offered to drive me to the correct hotel since it was only about 10 minutes away.
No way! They were so kind. Did you make it to Emma's cousin's wedding in time?
I did. I arrived just as the ceremony was starting. Emma was waiting by the door looking worried, but when I explained what had happened, she couldn't stop laughing.
And how was the actual wedding you were supposed to attend?
It was beautiful, but honestly, I spent half the night telling people about my mix-up at the first wedding. It became the funniest conversation starter ever.
That's perfect. So how did it all end?
In the end, it turned out to be one of the best wedding experiences I've ever had. I made new friends at the first wedding, I have an amazing story to tell,
Definitely.
and I learned to always double-check addresses before going to important events. But most importantly, I learned that sometimes our biggest embarrassments turn into our favorite memories.
That's such a wonderful lesson. And I love how your story demonstrates all the techniques we talked about. You used, let me tell you about the time, at first, then, suddenly, and in the end, so naturally.
You're right, I didn't even realize I was using them, and I used past continuous to set the scenes. I was looking around, I was chatting with this couple, while past simple told what actually happened.
Exactly. And you expressed so many emotions: confusion, embarrassment, relief. That's what made the story come alive. All right, now it's my turn. Let me tell you about something that happened to me just last weekend.
Ooh, I'm ready. This should be good.
You won't believe this, but I accidentally became a hero at the local park. And it all started with my terrible sense of direction.
A hero? I'm intrigued. Tell me everything.
Last Sunday morning, I decided to try jogging in this new park I had never been to before. At first, everything was going great. The weather was perfect, there were beautiful trees everywhere.
Sounds like a perfect day for jogging.
It really was. I was feeling energetic and confident, so I decided to explore some of the smaller trails. While I was jogging, I was listening to music and enjoying the scenery, not really paying attention to where I was going.
Uh-oh, I can already sense where this is going.
You know me too well. After about 45 minutes of jogging, I suddenly realized I had no idea where I was. I was completely lost in this huge park, and all the trails looked exactly the same to me.
Oh no, how did you feel?
I was getting pretty nervous, especially because my phone battery was almost dead. I was starting to panic a little when I heard someone calling for help in the distance.
Someone else was in trouble too?
Exactly. I stopped and listened carefully, and I could hear a woman's voice shouting, "Help! Somebody help me!" So even though I was lost myself, I started running towards the voice.
That was brave of you. What did you find?
I found this elderly woman who had fallen off the main trail and twisted her ankle. She was sitting on the ground looking really scared and in pain. Her little dog was with her, and he was barking like crazy.
Poor woman. What did you do to help her?
Well, first I helped her stand up carefully and made sure she could put some weight on her foot. Then I realized we had a problem. Neither of us knew exactly where we were or how to get back to the main parking area.
So you were both lost. That must have been stressful.
It was. But then I had an idea. I remembered seeing a tall water tower from different points during my jog. I suggested we try to walk toward the water tower since it would give us a reference point to navigate by.
Smart thinking. Did it work?
It did. We walked slowly, she was leaning on my arm for support, and after about 20 minutes, we found the main trail that led us back to the parking area. I was so relieved, and she was almost in tears from gratitude.
That's such a heartwarming ending. You really were a hero.
Well, here's the best part. When we got back to the parking lot, there were two park rangers who had been looking for her. Apparently, she had been missing for over 2 hours, and her family had called for help.
Oh, wow. So she had been lost for a long time.
Exactly. The rangers were so grateful, and they said I probably saved her from spending the whole day lost in the park. Her daughter arrived just as we were talking to the rangers, and she gave me the biggest hug.
How did that make you feel?
I was so moved. I felt proud and happy that I could help, but also amazed at how everything worked out. If I hadn't gotten lost myself, I never would have been in that part of the park to hear her calling for help.
That's incredible. Sometimes getting lost leads us exactly where we need to be.
In the end, what started as an embarrassing mistake, getting lost during a simple jog, turned into one of the most meaningful experiences I've had in a long time. And I learned that my terrible sense of direction might occasionally be useful after all.
That's such a beautiful story, Avery, and I love how it shows that sometimes our weaknesses can become strengths in unexpected ways.
Exactly. And notice how I used all those storytelling techniques we discussed. The setup with at first, the development with then and while I was, and the dramatic moment with suddenly I realized.
Perfect examples. And you mixed past simple for the main events with past continuous for background actions. I was jogging sets the scene, while I heard someone calling gives us the key moment.
Exactly. That combination makes stories flow so naturally. All right, everyone, now it's your turn to practice. Let's help our listeners develop their storytelling skills.
Great idea. Everyone listening, I want you to think about something interesting, funny, embarrassing, or surprising that happened to you recently. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It could be something simple, like meeting an old friend unexpectedly, trying a new restaurant, or even having an interesting conversation with a stranger.
The key is to choose something that made you feel an emotion: surprised, excited, nervous, embarrassed, happy, or even confused. Emotions are what make stories memorable and engaging.
Now, let's practice step by step. First, start with one of our story openers. Try saying out loud, "Let me tell you about the time I," and complete it with your experience.
Great. Now set the scene using past continuous. Think about what you were doing when this experience began. I was walking to work when, or I was having lunch with my friend when, or I was shopping at the supermarket when.
Perfect. Now comes the interesting part. What happened? Use then or suddenly to introduce the main event of your story. This is where you use past simple to tell us what actually occurred. I was so... And finally, how did everything turn out? Use in the end or finally to wrap up your story. Did you learn something? Did it have a happy ending? Was there a funny conclusion?
Excellent job, everyone. Now try putting all those pieces together and tell your complete story from beginning to end. Remember, don't worry about making mistakes. The most important thing is to practice and have fun with it.
And here's a fun challenge. Try telling your story to a friend, family member, or even practice in front of a mirror. The more you practice storytelling, the more natural and confident you'll become.
Remember, everyone has interesting stories to tell. Sometimes we don't realize how engaging our everyday experiences can be when we share them with the right storytelling techniques.
Absolutely. And storytelling is such a wonderful way to connect with people and practice your English at the same time. You're not just learning grammar, you're sharing part of yourself.
Perfect. All right, everyone. Let's quickly recap those essential storytelling phrases we learned today. For starting your story, let me tell you about the time I, guess what happened to me, and you won't believe this.
For guiding your listener through the story, at first to set the scene, then and while I was to continue, suddenly for dramatic moments, and in the end to conclude.
Don't forget to mix past simple for main events with past continuous for background actions. And most importantly, include your emotions. That's what makes stories memorable and engaging.
Here's your homework challenge for this week. Try telling at least one short story in English. It could be to a friend, a family member, a colleague, or even just practice by yourself out loud.
And if you're feeling brave and want to practice your writing too, share one sentence from your story in the comments below. We'd love to hear about your interesting experiences.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us on Cozy English Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode about storytelling, please don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with your friends who are learning English.
We'll be back with another practical and fun English lesson. Until then, keep practicing those storytelling skills, and remember, everyone has amazing stories to share, including you.
Take care, everyone, and happy storytelling. We can't wait to hear your stories.
Bye for now.